My name is Miguel Jose. I'm a founder and managing director of the African Community Heritage Hub. We set up this organization to try to work with the diverse African communities in Birmingham and the West Midlands. The hub got into a partnership with the Birmingham City University and the Voices of Peace and War to work on a project called Minding Black Histories in Wartime. That project was about unveiling stories of black servicemen who served in the First World War. It was a kind of, I met some people, I think it was in an HLF event, that we're talking about the commemoration of First World War. I start thinking about putting up a kind of a project that will remember or acknowledge the contribution of Congolese soldiers who fought in World War I in Tanzania. The objectives of the project was to work with young people. We set up to work with 5 to 7 young people to train them in collecting digital stories. And we said we're gonna do some workshops. We're gonna then help those young people, the trained young people, in collecting stories. Some of the young people had links with servicemen of First World War and Second World War. But there was a kind of confusion because these young people, most of them didn't even care about the World War. One of the young people told me, "Why do you want me to do that? It doesn't matter if I know or if I don't know, it's history." And we have a curriculum at school or colleges that they set up what you have to learn. The First World War, this is gone, it's not for us. We are in a new world. At one time, when we start talking, we build up this conversation about involvement or contribution of black servicemen in the First World War. The young people start to show up a bit of interest. Part of us researching black servicemen contribution to the First World War, we identified people in London with direct ties to the war.
Well, I'm Theresa Wise, father or daughter of the late Andrew Peer. I was told by him, because growing up as a child, that he was in the war, 1914 war, and the suffering that he went through. Well, he lost his leg in France. I was told that he lost his leg in France, and he came over to Bethnal Green in London. He was at Bethnal Green Hospital there for some time, whilst getting the leg better, cured. And after the war, everyone has to go back to their home or where, but he didn't go straight back to home. He went to Panama. And there was work. He worked there on the Panama Canal. And then after that, he went back to Grenada, where his parents didn't really expecting him home. They thought probably, because not hearing from him, they thought probably he was dead and sort of thing. So they were all surprised for him coming back home. After some time, he met with a young lady, got married, and had 9 children. And every other year they would send him a pair of shoes, and the leg would come from England. He get his pension used to come from Jamaica because they enlist the war from Jamaica. But he suffered. You always think of the English people. They promised so much to give them after the war. They're going to make them, give them a home and give their family education, and things like that. But this was nothing happened.
I'm Gloria Wise. Andrew, the late Andrew Peer, was my grandfather, and I've always heard the stories about my grandfather and what he'd actually done in the war. The West Indian contribution has literally been airbrushed out of all our history books, because I feel that if, when I was learning about World War I and World War II when I was at school, so we're talking about primary school and secondary school, if I felt that my grandfather had anything to do with this, I would have had a different sense of pride that would have been instilled in me, that actually this is part of my history, this part of British history is actually my history, while obviously I've just sat on the periphery and just understood that this is a white British history and nothing to do with me. So I think that I feel cheated in a way that I couldn't celebrate the World War I and II histories when I was a young person, because I was unaware of the major part that my grandfather and other people had actually played in that.
My name is Lennox Salmon, and it was my grandfather who came and fought in the First World War. Give you a little history of my grandfather. He came from Jamaica. He was born in Jamaica in 1894. He came as a volunteer, that's quite important to remember, volunteer, to join the British West Indies Regiment, and he joined that in 1917. So he came after 3 years of war. Interestingly, since I've done a little research, I found out that he also had a younger brother called Verrill Newman, who came earlier than he did, and he went to Palestine. Now, the interesting thing about the troops that came to Europe, the majority of them didn't actually take up arms and get involved in the fighting. There were quite a few who did, but my grandfather, it seems, ended up in what they call the lines of communication. Their job in the war was to dig trenches, move ammunition, load ammunition, and they were also used to unload ships. So kind of like the menial tasks, supposedly less dangerous, but if you're near the front where the fighting is going on and you're dealing with loading or even moving ammunition, then obviously the enemy would like to compromise things and blow up your ammunition. So what they did was actually quite dangerous. Okay. But he was not impressed with the British soldiers. Maybe I should say English, but I think it's British. He didn't think their hygiene was very good. And he also gave an experience of how some of the troops got so hungry that they actually were willing to take a rotting horse or parts of a rotting horse and actually use it as their food. But it was a tough time because they felt that there was prejudice. The British troops were given pay rises, but not the West Indians. Now they were supposed to be on parity, but obviously, you know, there's something going on why these guys didn't get the same amount of money. and pay rise, you know. But he met a young lady who wanted him to stay. But we can't figure out if it was Italy or in England. But there was some love kind of thing going on. But he wasn't interested. He said he never really wanted to go back to England. But yet he was very kind of proud of being British. And he seemed to have a lot of time for the English. When I met him in '76, one of the regular things they would do is listen to the BBC World Service to catch up on the news, you know. And this was a regular thing every day. I think it used to come on about 1 o'clock, and he would always, you know, tune in to find out what was happening in kind of like England and, you know, their influence. My grandfather, very fortunately, as I said, eventually went back to Jamaica. And by 1929, let me show you this again, he married this young lady, Florence, and as I say, they had 11 children. And my grandfather died, let me think of this now, I think it was 1986 or 1987. But he died at the age of about 92, and he was actually buried on his own land in an area called Clarendon, but a small village called Belcaris. Yeah, so he did well.
At one time, when we start talking, we build up this conversation about involvement or contribution of black servicemen in the First World War. Young people start to show up a bit of interest. A kind of, when I asked them, one of the young people live in a street called Nyanza in the Congo, in Kinshasa. When I asked this young person about what's the meaning of Nyanza, he said, oh no, I don't know, it's just a name of the road where I live. I said, but Nyanza is not Congolese. Nyanza, it's from the east of Africa, Tanzania. Your next road there, from Nyanza to the other one is Kibati, Kitega. Those names are not Congolese. Then they start doing some kind of research to understand where these names came from. And we explained to them that the name came from Tanzania because the Congolese soldier in 1914 to 1918 fought in the east of Africa. That battlefield was Kitega, Nyanza, Mayenge, Tabora. And after the war, then when they came back home, they took with them those names. It was a kind of self-recognition. I asked my wife and my nieces. My wife sent a driver with an iPad to take pictures of those streets. I insisted that the name of the streets be shown, will be visible on the pictures. And my nieces took the pictures, and my wife, they sent the pictures to me. And we used those pictures, we printed them here, and we organized another workshop outdoor that the youngsters saw the pictures. Our life is in Kinshasa, and our life is here. That's the difference. They had those pictures, and they used them to make portraits and take portraits of each other, showing those each other's pictures.